everyone, and welcome to Online Dating Red Flags episode number 3. Again, I do just want to apologize for the background noise of the fan, but it's something that really can't be prevented because it is really hot and humid, and I would not be able to record any videos if I didn't have the fan running. So I hope it's really not intrusive and that you can kind of ignore it and just skip right to the content. Number 1 is no clear headshot. I kind of touched on this a little bit in my last video, but this is something that's really important because if somebody's not willing to put a picture of their face in their profile, then it's very likely that they're hiding something. They're either married or they have some other weird thing going on. A lot of times people will say, well, I'm a prominent businessman or woman, I suppose. And that's why I don't have my picture. I'll share my picture privately, those types of things. Do not take that risk. Just do not take that risk. It's 2016. There is no reason why you can't put a clear headshot of yourself on an online dating profile. Online dating really doesn't have the stigma that it used to have. And even if it did, if somebody is really that worried about their image, is that somebody that you want to be in a relationship with? If somebody can't share their face and who they are, then how are you going to recognize them out in public? A lot of times this can happen with people that are, doing the whole catfishing thing. They're saying that they're 35 and they're really 55, or, things like that. A lot of times people will sort of avoid this and they'll have their profile picture that's taken at such a distance that you can tell that there's a human being there, but you can't actually make out any details of who they are, like any facial features or even anything that's identifiable. And this is just something that you don't want to take a risk with. You don't want to risk if you're looking for a serious long-term relationship, you don't want to risk getting involved with somebody that's married, or possibly worse. Maybe they're an abusive person. Maybe they don't want to be identified for reasons unknown. I've had somebody that used this excuse that, oh, I'm a prominent businessman, and guess who he was? He was the guy that I talked about in my Redbox Killer Craigslist ad video that I posted. This was that guy. He is not a prominent businessman. I've done a little bit of research to figure out some stuff about who he is. He's not a prominent businessman. We're just going to put it on that. He's actually living off the state right now. So his excuse to be, to share pictures privately or to not put his face out publicly, it's all bullshit. So just please be very mindful of that. If somebody's not willing to put their face out there, then they're not worth your time, because likely they're hiding something, and it's not worth you risking getting hurt, either physically, emotionally, or both, because someone's not willing to share something as simple as a headshot. So please be very mindful of that when you're out there. Tip number 2 is excessive talk about their ex early on. This could even be in their profile. They might say, I'm sick of liars and cheaters, and my ex, did this, and I see this. It's not super common, but I would say probably 10 to 15% or so of people start to already bash their exes, even in their profiles. Now, this is problematic for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it could be simply that, yes, what they're saying is the truth, and they were cheated on and they were hurt, and they're still hurting. They're not ready to move on to a relationship because they haven't processed the pain of whatever traumatic event it is that they went through in that relationship. If they're putting that out there as almost the first contact or even in their profile, then they're not over that. And that is something that you want to be very mindful of if what you're looking for is a long-term relationship, because if they're not over their ex, it's not going to be good for you. You're going to be just a rebound person at best, and there could be some other things going on as well. The other reason why this is a huge red flag is because highly manipulative people will often play the victim and tell you all of these stories about, their ex was crazy, bipolar, alcoholic, etc. And I'm not saying anything against people that suffer from addiction that aren't doing harmful behaviors or people that have mental health issues. I'm saying that highly manipulative people use this phrasing a lot. Cheating, these types of things. Sometimes they do that because they want you to feel sorry for them, and this will help. They think that this will help them get involved with you, because if you feel like they're a victim of somebody else's bad behavior, then you'll be extra careful to not do these types of things if you're a good person, because most good people don't want to hurt other people. A lot of manipulative people will project the kind of abuses that they have done and say that that's what their exes did. This is tricky because some people have survived abusive relationships and have been through all of these things. The main difference is that someone who has genuinely been through an abusive relationship tends not to be so open about it at the beginning when you're first getting to know them. And they tend to also take responsibility for their part in the relationship. If anything, they probably take on too much responsibility. And if asked about it, they would be like, yeah, well, I was stupid, I did this. Whereas a toxic person is putting all of the blame for the relationship. And this doesn't even necessarily mean if they're claiming that there was abuse or infidelity in the relationship. They're putting all of the blame of the relationship onto the other person, because this is what they do. So this is a huge red flag. Either way, like whether or not they have been hurt and they're still bitter, or they're using this as an excuse to try to lure in people that are more empathic and loving and that just really want to give somebody, a warm and loving and beautiful relationship, and they're manipulating these people. Either way, that's deal breaker material right there. If you see anything about their exes in their profile, or if on the first date they're talking about their exes, this is huge. You wanna just cut your losses at this point and walk away, because there's a lot of things that are going on there that are not necessarily good. So you definitely want to be very mindful of that as well. Number 3 is sort of related to toxic and manipulative people. And this says ask a lot of questions about you, but they'll deflect when you ask them questions about them. And when I say ask a lot of questions, I don't mean your typical, so what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? These types of things. If they're asking some really probing questions about you really early on, maybe they are genuinely interested in you, but they could actually be trying to extract information from you so that they can choose which personality to put on so that they can lure you into the relationship. This sounds ridiculous. This sounds absolutely crazy, but sociopaths and narcissists do this all the time. They'll wait to hear the information from you so they can mirror that, become the thing that you're looking for, pretend to become the thing that you're looking for. That's the operative thing, to lure you into the relationship so that you think that you have this amazing soulmate connection. If somebody is waiting for you to answer questions before they answer them themselves, or if you start asking them similar questions that are on the same line of the questions that you answered, and they're deflecting and they're giving very vague answers, they're hiding something. What they're hiding, I don't know, and I suggest that you don't find out. But these are things to be very mindful of. And if you're a very open person, you may see this behavior as somebody genuinely wanting to know you. And sometimes people do genuinely want to know others, and they ask them these really mind-probing questions because there's a genuine interest. But just be careful with the kind of information that you give people right away. Allow that trust to build, to be able to slowly give that information. And it's okay if somebody asks you a question that's too personal, if you're on the first or second date, for you to say, you know what, I appreciate you wanting to know that information, but I'm not comfortable with sharing that. And if somebody doesn't respect that boundary, that's that is deal breaker material right there. If somebody doesn't respect your boundary at all, deal breaker, move on, find someone else. I hope that these tips were helpful for you. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.